like that. Catch a mess through the pain, through the hurt. Just wanted to catch a mess. Keep on hustling, putting work. Just wanted to catch a mess. Stand tall and fight back. Let them know you ain't gotta live like that.
I look around like where the good times at. I just wanna bring the good times back. And if the good die young, why am I still alive? Maybe I deserve that fact. And the stars only shine when the dark come. Got me think about where I got my start from. We the new breed, who are we? We the lost ones. We the generation that embrace it like an art form. Here we go. And if you sitting in a tight spot, then you in the right spot. Man, I swear to God, I done been there. One shot like stop. Shot on a lot of homies that were here and they vanished in the same air. Yeah, it's like a roll of the dice. Pay the ultimate price. So do you stand up and fight? Do you throw in the side when safe? I'm out. I'll stand tall and prepare for the fight of your life. See me, I still battle with a...
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Survivor Series, and I'm your host, Higgy. The Survivor Series is sponsored by No More Heroin, 501c3, and this is my attempt to create a ripple effect of positivity through inspiration, hope, awareness, and testimonies of people that are coming out willing to step out of the shadows and share their testimonies in the hopes that it's going to help someone else that's struggling in the same way that they do. I have an amazing guest today. I want to say hi to Joni. It's good to see you. It's been a minute. Welcome. My old friend Janet. Hi, Janet. You guys, if you would, please give us a share. Let people know that we're having a live right now. If you see the live button over here, that means you're catching us live. Drop a hashtag live. If you don't see this button, you're catching a replay. Drop a hashtag replay. If you would, just chime in and let us know where you're watching from today. And I want to bring in my special guest today, Arizona Lindsey. She's a national recording artist. She's a multi-genre producer. She's a mental health advocate, and she's just simply talented and gifted. I just stuttered there. So I'm going to bring in Arizona. As you guys say hi, please throw some hearts for Arizona. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's such an honor to have you. We met through Instagram. I started watching your videos, and the very first video that I saw was Sinking Ship, and I related to it. The lyrics, the music, your voice, it's just such a complete package deal for what you're trying to do. I want to start off by having you introduce yourself real quick. Let us know where you're from, where you're coming to us from, and go from there.
So yes, again, my name's Arizona Lindsey, and I am a pop country recording artist based out of Long Island, New York. I am also a mental health activist, and I also do produce other artists in a multitude of genres. And I speak a lot about many different mental health subjects, but one of them primarily being trauma recovery.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I've got your video, Prove Me Wrong, queued up. Would you like to do an intro for it before we play it?
Sure. My song Prove Me Wrong was, I think, a reflection of me speaking from my inner child to what it's like to try to caretake for somebody who struggles with addiction and try to also love somebody who also may be hurtful or abusive.
Absolutely. Bring this up. This is Arizona Lindsey's Prove Me Wrong.
Is it okay if I stay through the night? How do keys make sure that you don't drive? Hover over, make sure you fall asleep. Funny you say how I'm not wired to take care of anyone but me. But if I leave, will you stay in your bed? One more 2 a.m. phone call, I swear I'll never sleep again. From your hospital bed, I'm scared that I'll remember you like this, and how I was just always too caught up in myself to ever fix it. I not strong enough for the both of us. With your head in your hands, you say, I've left you alone, but you're saying that you're getting better while staying sick. It's all I've ever known. Eat your breakfast and please get out of your head. No amount of TV can make you less depressed. The bottom of those bottles won't help you make amends. And just because you kiss bruises doesn't mean you can't make them. And I'm not strong enough for the both of us. With your head in your hands, you say, I've left you alone, but you're saying that you're getting better while staying sick. Is all I've ever known.
Whoops, I didn't mean to do that, but that's pretty much the end of it. That's a beautiful song. There's a lot of comments about how beautiful your voice is. It's amazing. That's a great song. Hold on, I've lost your volume here somewhere. There you go. I can hear you. Got you.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. What is your songwriting process when it comes to, you're obviously speaking from your heart. So what is the process for you for putting those experiences into lyrics and then put it to music? It seems like such a complicated process to a guy like me.
You know, I think every song is different. I think, you know, for this particular song, Prove Me Wrong, I was in New Orleans and I was at the time doing a step lower than inpatient. So I was doing like a PHP program, which is partial hospitalization. And I was trying to process some things and I had a lot of trouble putting it into written, what we call them trauma narratives, where you're expected to kind of just write everything down. And for some reason that was not for some reason, but that was challenging for me. And so I think this song kind of just popped out for me. I was just playing the same kind of arpeggiated guitar part. And then I just sang exactly what I would have wanted to say to that person. And I think for some other songs, it might be a more like intricate process where I sit down and I'm like, I want to write about this subject, or maybe there's like some more like composition kind of level stuff. But this, for me, this came out the way that you hear it now the first time I wrote it down.
Wow, that's cool. It's like it was meant to be, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So give us some of your history, your backstory. I like getting into people's heads and in their hearts to see, well, what horrors have you overcome to be this beautiful, proud woman that you are today. With you're utilizing all your gifts and all your experiences, and I'd like to get the backstory.
Yeah. So I am pretty open about that I'm a childhood trauma survivor. And I realize that that term can seem quite vague to many people, but I think what's less important about the details and more important about my narrative is that I think I was like managing what it was like to just grow up in these different traumatic stories, kind of one after another. Things that even didn't seem traumatic, like the traumas that stood out to me, I didn't even realize were still accompanied by going back to like a covert trauma. So there was really no sense of what I understand now as an adult of normalcy. And in 2018, my mom unexpectedly passed away.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. And I think that for whatever was going on in my brain, like neurologically, I started experiencing these very intense symptoms of what I now know as complex PTSD, where I started remembering things from my childhood that I didn't remember. I was dissociating, I was having flashbacks, and it got so bad to the point I wasn't eating, where I was really suicidal. And this went on for a while, and I did have some interventions later, about a year later, but nothing had really helped. And then I think when I got to the point of, I think the most severe that situation can be, let's say that, I did end up in a facility halfway across the US, which was in New Orleans. I'm from Long Island. So it was kind of, it was a lot. I didn't expect to even get to a point of being in a hospital. I don't think that I even wanted that at that point in my life. I think I just wanted everything to be done with. I didn't want to live like that anymore. And when I look back, I don't think anyone would want to live like that. No. So I think a big part of my recovery has been trying to not minimize or suppress the things without letting them quite literally define my future. And so my music career, you know, at the time I was in grad school, I was trying to kind of just run my life like I had lived a normal life, and I hadn't. And I realized while I was in the hospital that if I was going to survive for the rest of my life, like literally going to wake up every day and not want to take my life, that I had to create a life that I felt was worth living. And for me, the only option in front of me was music. And so that's what I do.
So how early in life did you discover that you were musically inclined? Were you a writer first before you picked up an instrument?
You know, so I remember being like so little that we would go to like the beach huts over here on Long Island, and I would go up to the band. I don't know where this confidence went later in my life, but I would go up to the band and be like, "Can I sing a song with you?"
Oh.
A song that none of them knew. And so I basically just sing like Celine Dion a cappella. And it wasn't like it wasn't like when you look at someone and you're like, that child star is going to go somewhere. It was like, you know, It was like everyone clapping to be nice. And then I started writing music, but my first instrument was drums. So I was writing and singing and playing drums and no one could hear me. So then I picked up guitar solely because I just wanted people to hear the words, and I guess my journey kind of took off from there.
And you play multiple instruments, right?
Yes.
From what I've seen, I've seen you behind the drum kit. I've seen you behind some keyboards. Let me see. I have pictures. This one.
That's my favorite.
You just look so happy there.
I have Starbucks. So,
so you know, let me take this off real quick. I want to say that when I seen you on stage in Times Square, it's like, go girl, go! I was so happy for you, and you know that came after your collaboration with DMC. Maybe later before we close, I can play that song or any song of your choice, but I really like that one as well. The lyrics are so on point. Let me see here. I got a picture of you on stage in New York City. It's Central Park, right?
Oh, that's Times Square.
Times Square, that's what I meant. Yeah, sorry. Great picture. It's a great picture. And this, Worth a Fight, that's the song we just played. And this is all you, right? This is all you. You do everything, right?
You know, I always like to take a moment to thank the people that work with me musically, because I work with Matt Einseidler, who's at Audio Workstations in Bohemia, New York, and he puts in so much of his heart, time, and effort. And you know, he's also my best friend, and so he's been there from the moment that I walked through the studio doors, wanting to come out with an album about trauma recovery, fresh out of the hospital, kind of still a little bit sedated, if you will, and and then all the way to writing and producing a song that was to feature DMC, that was also co-written by my good friend Law of the Planet 12 movement. He also helped produce my album about trauma recovery, which is called The Process. So if this story is something that resonates with you, I really recommend the album, not just because I wrote it, but because I think that, partially because I wrote it, but
hey, get your props, girl. Get your props. You're so humble. You're so kind. And it's just like I told you off air, you're very talented and your heart shines through with everything that you do. And you strive for quality, and everything. And it makes everything so relatable that you sing about and your videos, for awareness and whatnot. So I applaud you for your transparency and trying to help our people, through your craft. You are an artist. You're a skilled, very skilled individual that has a bright future in front of you. And I want to personally thank you for all your hard work and thank you for, sharing your struggles with us, for sure.
That means so much to me. I've done a few different interviews with different folks that come from the addiction recovery perspective. And it's kind of crazy to me because I remember when I first started group therapy and stuff, I wanted so much to separate myself from anybody who was there for drug or alcohol use, because to me, that was what had perpetrated me as a victim. And not just maturing, I think that's part of it, but also I think in my own recovery, realizing how you're not different, and realizing that we're all survivors of trauma and we all have different things that we've clung to. For me, it was my compulsive behaviors of self-harm or eating. And, for other people, it was a drug or it was a substance of some sort. And when you realize that, you can help a lot more people in recovery by relating to them rather than isolating yourself. And I think that's really hard for a lot of people, especially survivors, because we have these ideas in our head of what that means. But it just makes me so happy when I saw your profile and I saw everything you're doing. It just, I wish the people that I had loved did what you do, which,
thank you.
Follow through with the path of recovery. Like, what else could you possibly ask for from someone,
Absolutely. I think you're like me. We do it for the ones that didn't make it. And the ones that are struggling, in hopes that we'll give them enough courage to fight just another day. All we have is today, 24 hours, and we just try to live the best we can in this moment so that tomorrow is a better day for us. And even if it's not, we just keep plugging forward anyways, right?
Yeah.
So for a woman struggling with complex PTSD, what are some of your symptoms? For me, I have complex PTSD from a very similar home life upbringing. I got out of the habit of comparing my trauma to anyone else's because it's mine. I went for the longest time thinking that I was weak. Things that I've been through. I've seen people go through so much worse, right? And they seem fine. And here I am, I'm all fucked up. You know what I mean? Have you gone through that as well?
Yeah. I still sometimes have these moments of thinking that way. I think for me, when I was going into, obviously I had been to a lot of different hospitals before I was able to get somewhere that specialized in, I guess, my issues. So to answer the second question, I think you walk through the door and you're like, oh, I'm here because I'm messed up and I don't want to live anymore. And they think they understand how to fix me. So I guess I have no other choice but to let them try. And then you sit in a room with a bunch of other people who are talking about some of the most horrific things that you only hear about on TV, and you don't even know in the world. And you're like, okay, my mom was a little mean to me. I'm okay, you know? And you start minimizing. And then it's kind of funny because a few weeks into your recovery path in the hospital, you watch new people come in and go through the same thing where they're like, mine's not that bad. And you're like, we are all here, because you cannot compare trauma to trauma. You cannot compare bad to bad. It doesn't work like that. And trauma is not what happens to you. In the words of Bessel van der Kolk, it's what happens within you. And also what you might not think is the worst thing that could ever happen to you, somebody else, that is their worst nightmare. So it is all so subjective. To answer your first question, my symptoms have definitely not stayed the same, but some things that have been consistent for me is the flashbacks, and I think losing time. And for me at first, I think I studied mental health in school. And so for me, when I was reading about flashbacks and understanding them academically, I was coming from this perspective of I'm not having flashbacks because they're just memories and I know they're not happening. But they were flashbacks because I'm watching them happen in front of me and I can't leave that time period. I'm literally not sitting in my bedroom. I'm sitting in whatever situation that I'm having in my head. And over time, I think the more severe the symptoms became, the more that those flashbacks became so much more disturbing. And at times, even just things that weren't, when we think flashbacks, we think of traumatic situations we're being put back into. And sometimes it's just sitting at the, you drink a sip of orange juice and the stimulation from the orange juice puts you back sitting at the breakfast table with your family. And it's just sad because you're like, my mom's there and my mom's not here anymore. And it's just these small little memories. And
It's a sensory trigger, right?
yeah.
Smell, a taste, a sound,
It could be anything. It could be the smell in the air outside. And then I think the dissociation, I wasn't diagnosed with a dissociative disorder till over a year later, because I think they kind of couldn't tell the malnutrition and the eating disordered kind of spacing out and ADHD stuff from kind of this cognitive disengagement, which I still experience. I think out of all the symptoms I still deal with it today, that's the biggest one.
I so get that. The flashbacks is like time travel, and you're in it before you know it or even realize it. You're reliving this trauma. I've been in several auto accidents. To give one example for myself, I'll be driving down the road, and I will go somewhere else in my head, and I'll hit my brake automatically. Nothing wrong. It's just an automatic knee-jerk response, and I'm like, again, and it just those flashbacks keep coming back. I don't know how to prevent that, but it's very troubling at times because it's just like reliving the same thing over and over and over again.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, it's horrible. When that happens and you realize you're in a flashback, how do you bring yourself out of it? In a loving way, or is it like?
I think there are times I refer to them. I know that in different communities, the word relapsing can mean different things.
Mm-hmm.
That word has typically referred primarily to self-harm behavior, and other behaviors for me that have been harmful to me in my own way. I just thought of something funny. I'll tell you later. I
want to hear it now.
Okay. So there's this group, you may think it's funny. There's this group in the hospital called compulsive behavior group, right? And so you get put in it as part of the trauma therapy, but only if you have a compulsive behavior. And so I still remember this. I remember we had to go around, say our name, and say what our compulsive behavior was. And you might have like 15 compulsive behaviors. So you just pick one for that day. You're like, this is the one we're going to deal with for now. And I remember going in order, and this person was like, I struggle with heroin. And this next person was like, I struggle with cocaine. And they got to me and I was like reading off my chart that my therapist gave me. And I'm like, I struggle with compulsive cleaning. And I just felt so dumb. I think that not only did I feel like I not fit in, I think the other people in the room were like, who invited her? Like, and a lot of insurance money later, I think we got to the finale of, spending hours doing something in a dissociative state,
Mhm.
to the point where you're missing other elements of your life when you realize how you're thinking about it all the time, and you're engaging in it to get rid of the anxiety of thinking about it, and all of these, like the cycle of anxiety, engaging in behavior, anxiety, and like going back and forth.
Yeah. You
Realize,
get caught in that endless loop.
yeah,
And there's so much anxiety, stress, fear, worry, and all that's closing in on you, and you're trying to keep it away. That's where the dissociative behavior comes in, right?
yeah, and I think for I spend so much of my life, and I think many of us can relate to this, trying to be like, I'm not going to be like my parents. I'm not going to be like my parents. And it's a really hard line to walk on, of saying, people have their own trauma and their own issues, and saying, but intent versus impact. They might have been sick, but it is, and that's an explanation, but it's not an excuse for why these people have hurt me in the way that they have. Sitting in a room with people who are, I've sat in a room with someone who was like, I have done exactly what you're sitting here talking about from the victim standpoint. Like, I have abused you with a different person, and it's confusing for, I think, everyone in the room. And when you realize that all you could ever want from a sick parent or a sick caretaker or teacher or whoever it is that hurt you when you were a kid is for them to be sitting in that room with you, trying to figure it out instead of hurting people, or themselves. That is the difference. I think once you get to that point of realizing, like, I wish, my mom had had the chance to sit in a hospital room like this. Not everyone gets it.
Have you been able to forgive? Is that part of your healing process?
So sorry, I laugh when I'm uncomfortable.
I'm sorry. I want you to be comfortable. You're doing great. You really are. You're killing it.
My affect sometimes confuses people, so I try to just communicate well about when I'm smiling or something, that it's unintentional. But I think I feel a little bit differently about forgiveness than many other people in recovery. I do not feel like you have to forgive to move forward. I feel like, actually, I just released a song 2 days ago called The Truth. And I was horrified to release this song for a lot of reasons. I think mortified even, just the feeling of
Those are
embarrassment.
horrible feelings to have.
Yeah. It's a song about something that I have never even told my family and friends about. And then I put out a song about it. And for me, that honestly is the best way I can communicate. But even in just thinking about that, somebody said, do you forgive them? And I was like, I am not responsible for the harm that they did to me. I am responsible for my healing, and that sucks. It sucks.
Yes.
But I can't make them heal me, because even if they sat in front of me and said, I'm so sorry, I never meant to do that, I never meant to hurt you, I know that I hurt you. If they said everything that to me would be the perfect thing to say, it still wouldn't change the trauma that goes through my brain on a day-to-day basis. And I think sometimes healing is being angry, and sometimes healing is saying, I am angry and I don't forgive you, but I do want to move forward with my life, and letting yourself feel those emotions and accept them. And I think sometimes there's this toxic positivity, excuse me, of, sometimes forgiveness, especially for people I think that are faithful, like religious. I use the word faithful instead, but for them, that can mean something really different, forgiveness. But for me, I think my whole life, I only ever forgave. And a part of my personal healing journey is learning to say, no, it wasn't okay. I don't hate you. I'm indifferent towards your existence. And I'm allowed to be angry about what happened when I choose to feel angry about what happened. And there are days where I feel at peace, and there are days where I want to be angry. And I think letting myself feel those emotions is more healing than if I was telling myself, you should forgive them because that's your like, that for me is not healing. So everybody's different.
What I hear is acceptance coupled with boundaries and self-empowerment.
Yes.
Yay! I mean, that's really powerful because I don't feel that you need to forgive either. I mean, we have to come to a point where we have to accept responsibilities for our lives and the way we are, regardless of how we got there. And as painful as it may be, taking steps to alienate yourself from that person, that situation, and find a way to heal and move forward. That's where the real magic happens. And you're doing a great job, and you're expressing it well. And I really relate to everything that you're saying. I know other people in the comments they're chiming in as well, and it's relatable. It's relatable. And I really believe that learning to empower ourselves is such a valuable piece of the puzzle. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think I actually have it over here. I'll show it to you.
Okay.
But this is a piece of art that I made about how trauma is not, and trauma recovery is not about figuring out how to rebuild yourself to be whole and forgetting about the traumas and moving past them and just saying, you know, I'm healed now. It's more about realizing how the traumas, for the good and the bad, have created the person you now are, and recognizing that you get to build a border out of all those pieces and then fill in the middle. And that's your journey in recovery, is filling in the pieces. So let me see if I can turn this on. So I look like an old person trying to use Instagram. Hold on.
That's cool. There's pieces of the puzzle right there.
So it's like different parts of my trauma are incorporated into this, and the pieces are smaller and shaded in. And obviously not even all my traumas are included in here, but from my first time being in the hospital, I had only included the traumas that I had processed so far there. And then I included things that I hold as values in my life, like humor and creativity and strength and self-respect. Even if it's more aspirational than, like, it's not completely where I want it to be yet, you know?
That's huge. That's really cool. I like how you put that together, and you coupled your trauma with the positive. You know, it's that balance. You know, there's a way to get through this, and you have found a way, a method that's working for you. And I appreciate you sharing this with the audience, because everyone has trauma. Everyone has trauma in their life. And we all deal with it differently. And I think it's important that we realize how trauma affects us, so we don't pass it on to other people. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be harmful. I don't want to cause anyone to feel like I felt, for sure.
Yeah, if there's any message that I think has been the strongest message in my life just this past year, is I don't believe everything happens for a reason. I think personally, for me, that saying tends to somehow, like, these horrible things happen to me. Sometimes there are things so horrible in the world that we should not say that saying. However, I do believe in the power of bringing positive meanings from negative situations or negative experiences. And, you know, if the trauma that I've gone through with my new song, The Truth, that came out, which is about, you know, essentially like a sexually abusive relationship, and recognizing my own toxicity in the fact that I was passive and the fact that I was vulnerable and I didn't stand up for myself and I didn't know how to, and understanding and being compassionate towards that part of myself. And also, you know, realizing this person, you know, I have the tendency to only see the good in people. Recognizing that it's okay to just acknowledge the hurt that was done. And anyway, all that to say that I think the positive message that I get is that I get to spend every day of my life trying to help other people not feel like that's the end for them because they're feeling those emotions.
Absolutely. I feel you. I'm with you on that. I think our pain serves a purpose that puts us on a path to find our purpose and destiny. And you're on your path, and you're doing phenomenal work. I'd like to play another music video if you would give me your choice. I don't fit in. Trying to
That's fun.
better than you. Anxiety. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I'm trying to find
What are you looking for?
the one with DMT.
Oh, Worth the Fight.
Worth the Fight. Let me type this in. Don't. I believe this is the one that you're doing the expressive dance in the beginning.
Oh, you know what? That's not me. That's actually.
Hold on. That's not you. It resembles you.
She is a fan.
Hold on one second. There we go. I'm going to get this back to where it belongs. One second. Whoops. Not do that. Boom, boom, boom. Trying to screen share from YouTube. If I would have thought ahead, I would have downloaded it so I could just play it. I thought that was you. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying she is actually a fan of mine from, I think, Argentina. And she made that video for me, and I asked permission to post it. So that's her. She's a beautiful 15-year-old, very strong young woman.
That's beautiful. Look at you go, girl. This is worth the fight, you guys.
Losing time, trying to slow it down without giving into all my flashback to then. The words melted to the thoughts replaying in my head. Take and take until there's nothing left that make me feel like I'm a mess. Can it be true? I'm gonna make it through. Even the walls are caving in. I'm not gonna give in. Goodbyes always playing in my mind. I'm still worth the fight to survive. And take it one moment at a time. I'm sad in every way. My mind likes to replay all the things that led me here. Blaming myself for all the things that I can't change and just ruminating, suffocating, contemplating for somewhere else that I can't lose the one to save. Just throw it all away. I can't live like this anymore. Can it be true? I'm gonna make it through. Even the walls are caving in. I'm not gonna give in. Goodbyes always playing in my mind. I'm still worth the fight to survive. And take it one moment at a time.
It's worth the fight, that's right. It's the right kind of fight to fight. When it's gonna be stress and strife, the reaction is fight or flight. Is it ever gonna be alright? We all get upset, uptight, but in the darkness there is a light. Like the moonlight shining in the night. When it seems no ends in sight, I extend this little invite. There's a rhyme for you to recite. It's gonna be alright, just fight.
I'm gonna make it through. Even the walls are caving in. Oh, goodbyes always playing in my mind. I'm still worth the fight to survive. Can it be true? I'm gonna make it through. Even the walls are caving in. I'm not gonna give in. Always playing in my mind. I'm still worth the fight to survive. But in the darkness there and take it one moment at a time.
That's beautiful, my friend. Beautiful. Beautiful.
She did a wonderful job. She
Hold on, I got the music still playing in the background. There we go. I'll get out of that. Sorry about that.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
close.
describe what that was like making that song with DMC.
um, it was kind of surreal. I think, you know, it was so the process is my full length concept album that is about going through trauma and entering into the trauma recovery process. And I was close to finishing the album when I was introduced to Daryl through a mutual friend, and I was a big fan of Run DMC growing up, so I was excited to meet him. And when we were talking, we I don't want to say the word bonded because I feel like that's not like appropriate, but we
Connected. You
connected,
connected.
yeah, about our struggle with suicide. And it wasn't that long after I had relapsed and had another attempt. And I think I was the first time I met him, I was just really just in an aspirational place of trying to see that I was worth living and that people wanted me to be here, and that you know, there was a lot of things I think in the air. And when I met him, it was just kind of like, you know, he says he wants to do a song together, but you know, I don't know. And then a year later, I finally turned to Law, who worked with Amy Winehouse. He's incredible. I actually just went to a show last night, and you know, I was like, I want to write a song about what it's like to feel in that place of this is it, and this is as good as it's going to get, and I can't keep going, and I don't want to. And trying to encourage people to do to get better and to realize there is a future after trauma, there is a future after symptoms and mental illness, and even learning.
Breakdowns and all the collateral damage that comes with it.
Right. And at this point, it had been a year, and so I was like, how do I write a song from the perspective of someone in it without actually putting myself back in it? And we took out this huge binder from when I was in treatment, and I basically went through it with Law, and I just talked about we have to do these compulsive behavior sheets where we have to write down like the emotions and the negative thinking and what the thought is.
You
And
put the work in. You really have.
yeah, and we wrote down anything that stood out to us, and we created the verses out of that. And then the challenges that we had to write in these CBT like sheets became the choruses, and then we revised it a little bit to sound more catchy than reading trauma notes. And
Yeah. So well, what I find really powerful is someone that is perceived as successful, you know, in the music industry, like DMC, struggles with suicide as well, and those thoughts of self-harm, depression, mental health, all those things. It just makes it so relatable when folks like you, him, me, and everyone else that's trying to spread hope and awareness just puts their darkest moments on display for people to show that they too can overcome those obstacles in life. And I just feel that's so powerful, and I applaud you guys for that.
The song that you mentioned earlier, The Sinking Ship, is track 5 on the process, because again, it's a concept album, and track 5 is actually the turning point. And that anybody who is dealing with that or has dealt with it, that they check out that song, because the whole first part of the song is what I wrote when I was in it. And then when I went to record the song, I felt like it wasn't ethical for me to put it out because I was worried about people resonating with it and using that. And I wrote an entire second part of the song about seeing things differently, about, you know, yes, your ship is sinking, but you know, you're still on your way to land, and there's still a whole journey in front of you, and all these other analogies. So it's a very special song.
Can we play it? Do you care?
No, go right ahead. I'll mute myself so it doesn't have any feedback.
I don't think there was. Let me see. Oh, give me a second here to maneuver this. Boom, boom, boom. see here. Hold on. Nope. Picked the wrong one. Sinking ship. There we go. One second. Here we go. Arizona Lindsey, the sinking ship.
I know what you're thinking. What I did was real selfish. You're angry with me, sad or disappointed, and some might even say they feel devastated. But remember, these feelings and thoughts, they're not facts. Like stages of grief, they come and they pass. Give it a few months, you'll look back and know that you've moved on. This is what some people call a sinking ship. What it's like for lungs in the middle of an ocean, and anyone who tries to stop and help leaves you off worse. And just like he said, I was always in crisis, hopelessly chaotic, emotionally indecisive. So I went ahead and made up my mind for you all. Please don't go and blame anybody, because a functioning brain doesn't want to hurt its own body. I'm sorry to all of you listening to this, looking for a clearer reason of why I did this. I would love to explain, but my mind gives me them all at once. But I guess I just decided that staying alive was hurting more people than saying goodbye. And I am truly sorry to anyone who actually cared. And not everyone can make it off the sinking ship. Some of us just drown there and accept this is it. If I could get better, I'd already be better by now. To all of my family and all my close friends, I'm sorry for drowning, for all of this mess. Please don't think that I thought you loved me any less. And to learn that these thoughts and feelings were not facts, like the stages of grief, they come and they pass. And that feeling of drowning, it fucking hurts. I'm not saying it won't. But that sinking ship, you're on it still, sailing to land, and they're waiting for you there with welcoming hands. And devastated doesn't describe what they'd feel if you didn't show. And so what if one person or 5 people more were the reason you were hurting, or you were hurting for? There's no such thing as showing love by hurting yourself even more. And I know that you're calling this a sinking ship, because the waves are crashing down quicker than you can breathe in. But give the storm another chance to settle before you give in. And I'm not gonna lie to you, just being better's not a thing. It's more of a process, but something so worth feeling. I hear you, I see you, and you're capable of standing where you're sinking.
Oh, I think you're muted.
I wanted to cut out the back feed as well. Sorry about that. I don't know, but maybe you're like me. I don't like seeing myself on video or even listening to my own voice. Have you struggled with that? You know, you have a gift. You're beautiful, you're talented, and you put your heart into your work. Do you look at your work critically like that, or are you hi Kitty?
This is Pumpkin, by the way.
Hi Pumpkin, beautiful eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I think if my team like heard me hesitate on that question, they'd all be going, "Yes, she does." It's a struggle because I am 100% a perfectionist. It's definitely part of like my obsessive thinking is that if I see something even remotely human, I get so
Uneasy?
hard on myself, and I haven't seen that video in well over a year. It's only been out for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. So, um,
Sorry.
I self-edited, and directed that during COVID where, whatever. And I went up to my little brother and I was like, hold this. And then I was like, move it this way when I move this way. And it was, I think my brother was happy to help because at the time he was just happy to see me and out doing something that I loved at that. And definitely props to him and my other friend who helped me with recording. But yeah, it's hard to see myself in video, even the Prove Me Wrong video, self-edited and like did it with Mad, and it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, but you did. I just want to encourage you. You did a phenomenal job. You're doing a phenomenal job, and you're steady on the grind. You know, you're putting out new music all the time. You're putting out new content. You're staying engaged with people, and they're finding you. And this is one of my hopes for doing this is that other people will see your music and see the worth and value in it. And I'd love for you to find all the success in the world.
Thank you. No, he's trying to get to his toys. Come over here. I really
Here we are in the Survivor Series. Special guest, Pumpkin.
he's an unpaid actor.
What's in your future? Do you have new projects? Are you open for collaborations? I know a lot of people, and I was just two people come to mind that your style and your voices would match up really well. I believe.
I am always open to working with almost anybody. I always listen to what they have out and make sure, that we could get behind the same vision, that it's a good fit, of course. But especially with producing, I love producing people. I have an artist that I'm producing who lives all the way in Missouri, and a song I'm producing for an artist in Nashville. So I think, I definitely enjoy doing that as well. In terms of, if you haven't heard the process, I definitely encourage you to go listen to it. If you want to order a CD copy, you can check out my website. I have about, I think, 20 to 30 copies left of the original artwork and everything like that. And then what's going on right now is I actually started releasing a trilogy in September of this year. So the first song of the trilogy was Prove Me Wrong. And the second song just came out 2 days ago, which is called The Truth. And it's a trilogy of trauma recovery. And I think it relates to people about various different subjects, and I'll be kind of releasing a physical version around Christmas time.
Beautiful. Do you know who Jordan Meyer is?
I, off the top of my head, do not.
He's a one-man band. He has the recording parlor in Connecticut, so he's kind of local to you. He's very gifted and very talented as well. I think you guys would do a great duet together.
That sounds fun to me.
Yeah, he's also a mental health advocate as well. He's just super uber talented. If you've seen Casey make music, the video Sober, he's the piano player. He's the one that orchestrated all the music and the video and whatnot. Casey and him killed that song, killed it. Wow. But anyways, I tagged a couple of my friends in the comments. Logan Bruce, he's in Ohio. He's an acoustic artist as well. He's going to be celebrating 6 years sobriety, struggles with mental health as well. He's doing really well. I think your voices would mash up really well. I think you guys would do a great collab together just because you guys are from the same background, same motives, just trying to help and create music with a message. And I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, it seems sometimes like there's a lot of people doing what we do. And when you think about it, there's definitely not. So.
Right. Anything else we haven't covered? If someone is out there struggling with suicidal ideations, mental health, trauma, undiagnosed trauma and whatnot, what words of encouragement would you give them?
I would say that regardless of what your background is or what your age is or whatever you think is a reason that you don't take the next step into getting the help that you deserve, that you should just kind of, even if it has to come from external validation in this moment until it's your own validation, really? That you are worth the help, that you should
fight.
You are worth the fight, 100%.
That's beautiful. I concur. Well, thanks everybody for joining in. Everybody in the comments with all the compliments, the praise, just the love you give to one another in the comments is amazing. Where can people find your music and follow you on social media?
Definitely follow me on Instagram and TikTok if you have one. My page is under Arizona Lindsey Official on Instagram and Arizona Lindsey on TikTok. I also have a Facebook for those of us that still use Facebook, and I do. So, and as far as my music, pick your favorite platform to listen to music on, and you can basically find me on anywhere. And on my YouTube channel, I do post different videos and whatnot here and there. So, and I have a Patreon. So if it's something that you're interested in, you have the ability to support me in that type of way. I take a lot of recommendations and things like that from my Patreon babes.
Absolutely. I would love to collaborate with you on a PSA. Maybe utilize your music, maybe utilize you in some way. Would you be open for that?
Yes.
Beautiful. Love it. I would love to have you back. I have a co-host that's not with me. She is a fitness wellness coach and a mental health advocate as well. And I'd love to get you guys interacting as well, talking specifically about women's struggles, because men and women struggle differently. Yes. But, no matter what the substance is, the issue, it doesn't matter what it is. How it makes us feel about ourselves is exactly the same. Recovery is recovery, right?
Yes.
So 100. Thank you. Thank you, Ari. Can I call you Ari?
Yeah.
I'm in there.
Thank you for having me. Super fun. And I just really enjoyed this. And thank you for reaching out to me, because I had been looking at your page and I guess you'd been looking at mine. So it's kind of a cool.
It's an honor. I mean, having guests like you gives my platform credibility, because we're on the same page. The message is the same. How we got to recovery is different, but there again, how it makes us feel about ourselves is different. And there's a way to get through any of our struggles today without self-harming ourselves, without, self-sabotaging behaviors, and living in that guilt, shame, and remorse and the anxiety of it all. There is a way out. And thank you for being an example of that. This is what the Survivor Series is about. So thank you so much.
Thank you again for having me.
Okay, I'm gonna sign off, guys. Ari, stick with me for a second. And I just want to chat with you afterwards. You guys, if you would, tomorrow at noon my time, which is 1 o'clock Eastern time, I'm going to be joined by Daniel from Hard Knocks Talks and Jason from Knocking Doors Down. We're gonna chop it up. It's a little birthday celebration for myself, so I hope to see you guys there. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for the shares and the continual love and support that you give me, you give Ari, and all the people out here that are advocating for change and offering up hope. So thank you again. Peace, guys. We'll see you.